When a HOA president's fixation on her neighbor escalated to arson, residents believed the blaze marked the end of their ordeal. They were unprepared for the moment she stood before her victim in his own courtroom. The court officer's command echoed through the chamber, "All rise." Everyone stood as silence blanketed the crowded room. Heavy doors opened, revealing the accused being led inside, restrained and wearing standard detention clothing. Diane Fletcher shuffled forward, scanning the packed gallery and judge's bench for any supportive face. Instead, she froze upon seeing Judge Marcus Reynolds, the same man whose residence she had incinerated mere days earlier. The atmosphere crackled with tension as spectators whispered, stunned by this twist of fate. The twist is about to begin. Stay with us as the story unravels. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more inspiring stories. Diane's legs trembled, requiring the deputy's assistance as she was seated. Marcus's gaze met hers, steady and unreadable, yet carrying the weight of someone who had lost everything. His sanctuary, precious belongings, and sense of security. The room held its breath until Marcus spoke. "Be seated." As people settled, only the faint scratching of reporters' pens broke the silence. Diane's attorney whispered urgently, "Don't look at him. Focus on me." Too late. Everyone had witnessed that charged moment between judge and defendant. A week prior, this community had debated landscaping rules and parking violations. Now they confront the aftermath of a hatred-driven crime that nearly claimed lives. Marcus maintained composure while memories flooded back. Roaring flames, suffocating smoke, neighbors shouting his name, clutching his briefcase, one of few salvaged items as his home collapsed into glowing debris. Here sat the woman who began with trivial complaints about garden borders, who scowled at his greetings, who filed endless reports. The same person who decided immolating his house would make her rage permanent. Diane shifted nervously, her defiant expression betrayed by trembling hands. This surreal scene felt cinematic, yet was devastatingly real. A neighbor covered her mouth in disbelief while reporters scribbled frantically. Marcus inhaled deeply, knowing the world watched his every decision and word. Could he fairly judge someone who tried to erase his existence? "My client pleads not guilty," Diane's lawyer announced. The words hung like smoke rippling through the room. Everyone knew the investigators' findings, the footage, the gas container near the fence, security cameras capturing her vehicle circling the neighborhood. Diane glanced up again, and Marcus glimpsed something more unsettling than anger, a flicker of satisfaction, as if forcing him into this position was itself a victory. This collision of personal devastation, raw hatred, and questions about justice's nature wasn't born in this courtroom. It began in their quiet Raleigh neighborhood, where families barbecued weekends, children cycled through streets, and disputes were supposed to remain minor. Judge Marcus Reynolds chose this North Carolina community for its balance, near the mountains, peaceful yet vibrant. His courthouse work in Wake County was demanding. This neighborhood promised tranquility. Initially, he fit perfectly, exchanging waves with neighbors, maintaining his property while believing a man's home was his refuge. Enter Diane Fletcher, Community Board President. To some, she maintained order. To others, she treated regulations like sacred text. Specific grass heights, uniform mailbox colors, porch lights extinguished by 10 p.m. Their first encounter involved his porch light. One evening while watering plants, Diane approached briskly, clipboard ready, lips set in that line people adopt when convinced they're right. "Judge Reynolds," she said curtly, "your porch light burns too late." Marcus set down the hose. "Evening, Miss Fletcher. It's for security, turns off around 11:30. Diane shook her head. "Regulations specify 10 p.m. You're disturbing residents." Marcus studied her face, recognizing something beyond rule enforcement. This felt personal. "Noted. I'll review it." That exchange might have ended there, but Diane persisted. A week later, Marcus received a letter about hedge height violations. Days later, another complaint about mailbox color inconsistency. Marcus initially laughed it off, telling his friend David Chin over the phone, "If this is her biggest concern, maybe this neighborhood is too perfect." David chuckled. "She sounds like someone who measures grass with rulers." She appeared with a clipboard. "I think she does." But the laughter masked growing tension as letters, visits, and stares from across the street accumulated pressure like humidity before storms. Neighbors noticed too. Patricia Walsh, a retired librarian 2 houses down, whispered at the mailbox, "She doesn't bother anyone else like this." "It's strange." Marcus shrugged. "Maybe I drew the short straw." Patricia frowned. "Bad luck doesn't send 5 letters monthly." Diane's obsession became obvious. If Marcus parked slightly close to the curb, she photographed it. When guests visited, she timed their stays. Her rule fixation seemed masking something deeper. While neighbors rolled their eyes at community meetings, few challenged Diane's loud, pushy demeanor. Most preferred avoiding her entirely. One evening, Marcus's sister Rachel visited for dinner, noticing the letter pile. "All from the board?" she asked. "Same handwriting, same signature," Marcus confirmed. Rachel frowned. "You handle high-profile cases. Could this be more than regulations?" Marcus stirred the pot, pausing. "I've considered that, but I don't want to assume malice. I'll stay calm and continue my routine." But Diane wasn't calming down. Each complaint, each glare felt like another brick in a wall she was building. Behind closed doors, her muttering grew darker. Neighbors overheard her at meetings. "He thinks he's superior, but he's not." Marcus tried rising above it, focusing on work, family, quiet evenings. But even he couldn't ignore how Diane's shadow crept deeper into his life. This was only the beginning. Diane's fixation was about to shift from irritating letters to something far more dangerous. By spring, her obsession with Judge Marcus Reynolds had become unmistakable, setting the stage for a confrontation that would consume them both and shock their entire community. Her fixation had evolved beyond letters into constant surveillance. She positioned herself strategically, always watching, documenting everything. Neighbors who once dismissed her now whispered, wondering why she transformed community governance into personal warfare. Marcus tried maintaining perspective. He'd handled heated trials, defendant threats, even death warnings. One obsessive neighbor seemed manageable. But home differs from courtrooms. Houses represent sanctuary, not conflict zones. One Saturday morning while trimming roses, Diane appeared with her phone camera. "You know the rules about yard debris," she called, angling her device like gathering evidence. Marcus straightened slowly. "Good morning. I've always maintained my property properly." Diane stepped closer, snapping photos. "We'll see what the board decides." Before Marcus could respond, his friend Victor Martinez arrived, dropping off fishing equipment. Victor emerged from his car, tall and broad-shouldered, his easy grin cutting tension. "What's happening here?" Victor asked, glancing between them. Diane folded her arms. "Just ensuring compliance, my presidential duty." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Duty?" "He maintains the neighborhood's cleanest yard." Her face flushed. Without another word, she stormed toward her house, heels clicking pavement. Complaints grew pettier yet sharper. She accused Marcus of hosting unauthorized gatherings when Rachel brought friends over. She claimed his flag was improperly displayed. She filed noise complaints when Marcus's nephew practiced saxophone at 5 p.m. Saturdays. Marcus finally confronted her directly, walking across the street one evening and knocking. When Diane opened the door, she didn't look surprised, almost expectant. "Miss Fletcher," Marcus began evenly, "this has gone far enough. I've respected your board position, but constant complaints constitute harassment. This isn't about rules anymore, it's personal." Her lips curled between smirk and sneer. "Personal? You think this concerns you? I treat everyone identically." Marcus leaned slightly forward. "Then why is my mailbox the only one you inspect twice weekly?" Diane's eyes flickered momentarily, then she said flatly, "Because you don't belong here. Not the way you imagine." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Good night, Miss Fletcher." As he turned, her voice followed, "You can wear your robe in court, Judge, but it won't protect you here." The next HOA meeting made her hostility public. When a neighbor praised Marcus for helping shovel winter snow, Diane snapped sharply, "Good deeds don't excuse violations. This community has standards, and some people ignore them because of their positions." But while neighbors debated, Diane was already planning something catastrophic. The fire came on a humid July night. Marcus woke to smoke seeping into his bedroom, security alarms shrieking. Thick gray clouds were already climbing the staircase. He grabbed his briefcase and phone, calling 911 while stumbling through burning hallways. By the time he escaped, flames were consuming everything: photographs, furniture, memories. He stood barefoot on the curb, watching his sanctuary collapse into glowing debris. Within hours, investigators found accelerant traces and surveillance footage of Diane's vehicle circling the neighborhood just before ignition. 2 days later, officers arrested her. Gas residue in her garage matched the accelerant. As they led her away in handcuffs, she didn't hang her head or cry. She stared straight ahead, chin lifted, almost proud. Now, weeks later, she sat in his courtroom pleading not guilty despite overwhelming evidence. The trial proceeded swiftly. Prosecutors presented security footage, accelerant analysis, neighbor testimony about her escalating harassment. Her defense attorney argued stress and misunderstanding, but the jury looked unconvinced. Patricia Walsh testified about Diane's obsessive behavior. She was always watching him, muttering about him. "I told my husband something bad was coming." Victor described warning Marcus repeatedly about Diane's dangerous fixation. When prosecutors played Marcus's 911 call, his voice raw from smoke inhalation, coughing desperately, even some jurors wiped their eyes. Diane blanched momentarily but maintained her defiant posture. Throughout the trial, Marcus wrestled with his role. Every ruling carried scrutiny's weight. Was he being fair? Too harsh? Too lenient? Reporters dissected every expression, every pause. The jury deliberated just 4 hours before returning. We find the defendant Diane Fletcher guilty of felony arson, destruction of property, and aggravated harassment with hate crime enhancement. Diane sat frozen, whispering, "No, this isn't right," as reality crashed down. At sentencing 2 weeks later, Marcus addressed her directly. "You burned down my home. You destroyed years of memories. You endangered my life and my neighbors' lives. And for what? Because you could not see me as your equal?" He continued, voice steady but heavy, "I have spent my life believing in justice, that it should be blind, fair, and unwavering. Today I am reminded that justice isn't about vengeance. It's about truth. The truth is simple. You chose hate, you chose violence, and now you must live with those consequences." The sentence, 22 years in prison, parole eligible after 15. Outside the courthouse, Marcus spoke to reporters. "I lost a house, but what we all risk losing is bigger than wood and brick. We risk losing the idea that neighbors look out for one another. Hate begins small, petty complaints, sharp words, and if left unchecked, it grows into something destructive. We cannot ignore it when we see it. We have to confront it." Standing on the sidewalk across from his charred lot that evening, Marcus felt something shift inside. Rachel joined him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "You did it. You stayed true to who you are." He nodded quietly. Justice isn't easy, but if it was, it wouldn't mean anything. Neighbors approached throughout the evening, some with casseroles, others just to shake his hand. They thanked him not for being a judge, but for showing them what courage looks like when hate tries to push someone down. The lesson here is crystal clear. Obsession fueled by prejudice can destroy, but dignity and justice can rebuild what hate tries to erase. We must never look away when hatred rears its head in our communities. We must stand up, speak out, and protect what's right, even when it costs us something. If this story moved you, if it reminded you why we must choose justice over hate, then hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel. Because these aren't just stories, they're warnings, lessons, and glimpses of what it means to be human when humanity is tested.